Okay.
Hey guys, it's Sean O'Connell, the managing editor here at CinemaBlend, back with yet another Snyder Cut video where we're breaking down the differences between key characters from the theatrical cut and what we expect to see in Zack Snyder's Justice League when it hits HBO Max. I have been joined on this journey by the wonderful Hannah Saulic. We've made it through the League, and that means we're moving on to some of the supporting cast.
At last, you call me home.
And most people who have been following along in the video have been asking in the comments down below for us to get to the spiky boy, Steppenwolf, our beloved villain. And so, Hannah, we're going to dive into how different we expect Steppenwolf to be in Zack Snyder's Justice League. Where are we going to begin?
So we always start these by just kind of bashing on what the problems were with each character in Josstice League, which for those who don't know is the theatrical cut of Justice League. So I thought it would be fun to ask some people on Twitter what they did not like about Steppenwolf in Josstice League.
You got a lot of responses.
I got so many responses. I mean,
way more than I thought.
Fair.
People are super passionate about Spiky Boy.
Let them come.
So there's kind of like three main categories of stuff that people really did not like. A lot of people, like at Taylor Rasha, basically were just like, you want me to pick one? Is everything an option? No, it's not, because that's not fun.
Well, because I want to bring up one important thing. Like, we really don't know how Steppenwolf is going to be used in Zack's version, right? But it's clear that when Joss went back to do his reshoots, that he focused very heavily on Steppenwolf because he looks really bad consistently throughout the entire film. So we're left to wonder why he went through the process of changing his look if he's going to do essentially the same things in Zack's version. Like, I assume he's still going to attack the Amazonians. I assume he's still going to be part of the battle underneath Gotham Harbor. So why not just leave what Zack's design was?
Yeah, that CGI that we saw was not done at all.
No.
So a lot of people's problems with Steppenwolf in Justice League was the way that he looks.
It looks like 20 years dated. Like, it looks like the type of CGI character that you would have seen in a bad 90s sci-fi film, which it doesn't jive with anything that we've come to expect from the DCEU up till that point. It doesn't even jive with anything that's going on in the movie. Like, that's the strangest thing about him, is that when you see bad Photoshop, like, you look at it and you're like, oh, that doesn't fit in there at all. And that's the biggest problem with Steppenwolf.
At Bob Digi69 says, he looks like a wax museum Liam Neeson, which I thought was pretty on point.
Yeah, the face is very Liam Neeson. And I know at some point we're probably going to get into his vocal delivery as well, too.
Oh, yes, that's coming.
Okay, so I'll hold off for that. But yes, the face, it's almost like, and so in the brief bits that we've seen from Zack's footage, Steppenwolf doesn't have a face yet. Oh, well, he does in one shot that Zack released. With the spikes and everything going all over the place. But for the most part, he seems to be, like, helmeted. And that has a sort of ominous, menacing, like, we don't really know what this guy's doing. Whereas Joss went above and beyond to give him a expressive face to make him like a Shakespearean actor.
Noble Queen, why do you fight?
Like when you'd see a legit actor who you recognize come out in period garb and try to do like lines about mother, like it's weird. It's just weird. It's creepy.
At SM Colbert said he has kind grandfatherly eyes.
Which is what you want from your villain, right?
Which is totally what you want for somebody that needs the entire Justice League to take him down.
Oh my God.
Oh no.
There was another funny one about, a lot of people basically were just saying that his face really like made you have compassion for him, and that he really just like, you got the sense that Steppenwolf really just wanted to be loved.
Well, so there's an odd structure that I think has to happen, right? Like Steppenwolf is going to have a series of smaller battles, though still pretty grand in scale, throughout the course of Zack's movie, where he's going to take on some Atlanteans, and he's going to take on the Amazonians and triumph over them and secure multiple mother boxes. And you're going to get the sense, or you're supposed to get the sense, that this guy is such a badass that, like, even if the League were to be unified, which they're still a little bit fractured, they're going to have their hands full with this guy. And that doesn't happen in theatrical
So
cut.
you know how you achieve that is you give him the face of your grandma. I found the tweet that I was referencing earlier.
Okay.
Todd Betts said his face implies compassion. There's nothing villainous about his appearance or facial expressions. He always looked like he was someone's friendly uncle that nobody really understood. I just wanted a scowl or something.
Yeah, I could see that. And I know somebody also mentioned the fact that it looks like he has balls hanging from his chin.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I saw that tweet.
Oh my
and
God.
That's really hard to ignore. Now, listen, we get comments every once in a while where people say that all we do in this series is rip on the Justice League cut, and that's fair. But so I want to point out that there are two really cool moments that Steppenwolf does get in the course of the theatrical cut. One is where he catches the missile that's fired at him underneath Gotham Harbor, and he kind of looks at it and he's like,
Primitive beings.
I thought that's a pretty cool way to sort of convey that this guy has a ton of power. And the other one is when he sort of taunts Wonder Woman.
Child, my axe is still slick with the blood of your sisters.
That's a good way to get underneath
Yeah.
Wonder Woman's skin after you've just
for sure.
decimated some Amazonians and stolen the mother box. So it's
And
not
imagine how cool that would be if he actually, like, what he was saying matched how he looked.
right, because instead you're right. It's like a middle school teacher scolding one of his students. So
Yes, at Jarvis Unchained said he has no real presence. If you're going to be a bland personality villain, at least to look cool. So
that's hard to argue against too.
Makes that
He's
point.
not much of a threat. That's the issue. He doesn't come across as much of a threat.
Why does everyone keep telling me that?
Okay, so earlier we were talking about the voice, and Sir John Aaron said the one thing that really bothered him was how they made Ciarán Hinds' voice lighter and non-threatening, even from the first trailer that debuted how he'd sound. And I'll cut that in so everybody can kind of hear the difference.
This world will fall. Like all the others. The Kryptonians' death plunged this timid world into such terror.
No.
Did it bother you?
It fit the visual, right? Like it
That's
had
what I
that
thought, too.
sort of it had that sort of gentle lilting, almost like it's trying to achieve I'm so much more powerful than you guys are that I'm almost bored by you. And there are ways to do
Yeah.
that and have it be really menacing. But instead,
It was not menacing. It was like almost like a condescending, like highbrow, like haha.
condescending is the perfect way to put it. And again, that's all just direction and delivery, you know? So that's something that I have to assume Joss was going for, of like, no, and maybe that's attributed to the tonal shift that Warner Brothers thought they wanted at the time. Like, no, don't make it so dark and menacing. Let's make this a little bit more accessible. But by watering down your villain, you're ruining the end product. So
Yeah, that's what I just don't understand. It's like, why would you pick your villain to be like, okay, let's focus all this energy on the villain and make him lighter and more approachable?
right, because as we've sort of determined, that's who they have reworked over and over and over again. And again, this sort of comes down to trying to deal with so much story and ordering your replacement director to fit it into 2 hours of runtime. You know, there's so many other subplots that we have discussed in relation to the other characters in the league that have to be addressed. They can't be ignored completely. And yet Steppenwolf still has to be there for a reason. And I did see some people tweeted along the lines of like, he doesn't have an arc, you know, like there's no.
Yes, that's the other major category that people were upset about. Is just like his complete missing backstory and motivation.
Yeah, and he kind of has it in the fact that like, you know, he wants the mother boxes, but it's not like really clear why he wants them. And the weird thing about Steppenwolf too is that he's just meant to be a stepping stone to get to Darkseid, right? Like Darkseid is the villain. And so he loses some weight because he's just not that yet. But he's still supposed to be a threat. He's still supposed to be super menacing, and the movie fails to make him that.
Yes, something I thought was funny, at Ricky J. Mark said there wasn't too much context as it was, but his constant muttering about mother seemed a bit, let's just call it unhealthy.
So I don't remember him saying it that often. I did not want to. Does he say it a lot?
He says it a lot.
I didn't want to go back and rewatch to refresh my memory.
I don't blame you,
before
yeah.
This one, but a lot of people did mention that, and I don't remember that being as prominent.
He says it more than like the first couple times he says it, you're like, okay, whatever. But then he like keeps saying it, and you're like, okay, like we get it.
Where is my mother? Mother. You will not Cat's mother.
What?
Like, are you okay, buddy?
No!
But yeah, so we'll get more into his motivations and backstory and how that will change in Zack Snyder's Justice League in a little bit. But the third major category of just stuff that people really, really did not like about Steppenwolf in Justice League was how cowardly he was. Mainly referencing the final battle where Chris Gardner art says that this supposed unstoppable universal badass world conqueror went out with a pathetic whimper, afraid because his axe was shattered.
It's really bad. And I'm going to attribute this to just them having to completely reshoot and reconfigure the final battle. And you have to come up with some solution that is going to be like, how do we get rid of Steppenwolf?
Leave me!
We think we know in Zack's version, though nothing has been confirmed until we see it, that there's going to be a coordinated attack by the members of the League that is going to result in Steppenwolf being beheaded by Wonder Woman. We've seen some graphic art that suggests that this is going to be the case. Aquaman, Jason Momoa, shared an image on his Instagram of his spear going through Steppenwolf's chest. So the League is going to triumph over him. It's not going to be the Parademons turning on Steppenwolf and essentially tearing him apart. That is a rewrite, and that's something that they just hastily shot and then turned over to a VFX team and said, okay, make this look okay, sort of thing. But then a boom tube is supposed to open, and the League is supposed to see Darkseid for the first time, and there's a shot where it's the League. Superman's at the head of it, and they're looking up, and it's the assumption that after defeating Steppenwolf, they're looking up into the boom tube and seeing Darkseid. That teases a continuation of the story, and Zack has recently said that they're going to maintain everything that they thought was going to be coming in 2017. They're going to maintain in this movie. So I think we're going to get that shot, which is going to mean a more pronounced battle against Steppenwolf, a far more effective defeat of him, and then hopefully this tease for a story that I'm starting to personally believe we're going to get to continue to see on HBO Max. I know nothing about that before you flood the comments, but I'm remaining very, very optimistic.
I am as well. And something that also bothers me just about Steppenwolf in general in that final battle is like, there was no reason for me to believe that like Wonder Woman couldn't defeat him single-handedly if she wanted to.
Right.
You know, like nothing he did was that like, oh, we really need everybody here. Which, I mean, I guess to that point in the final battle, the team really doesn't work together that much.
No.
As much as you would think that they would.
There's barely any time when they do coordinate their attacks together. And we've been saying in other videos too that we expect to see a version where Zack really utilizes the different skill sets of the members of the League. There is a theory going around, and I guess this is a good time to bring it up right now. There's the theory that's going around is that the League is actually going to fail. That they're not... Okay, so here there are multiple different ways that this is being put out there. This is the one that I'll sort of go with, but I'll dance around a couple of different things. There's a version where... again, this is all speculation, but it's cool speculation. I like it.
I like theories.
There's a version where the League doesn't resurrect Superman, or Superman gets resurrected but doesn't fight with them. And they go off to try to defeat Steppenwolf, and they are unable to. In the moment when Flash is in the Speed Force and he's kind of looking around, you can see an explosion happening. This theory's been passed to me by other people, and so I can't steal it. It's not mine. There's an explosion, and the suggestion is that that's the League failing to stop Steppenwolf, and that Barry has to run back through time and course correct everything and then convince Superman. Which would then... So I'm taking that theory one step forward and saying that if Flash has to go back and convince Superman, like, hey, you got to fight with us because otherwise we're not going to win, then the second time we see the battle, when Superman arrives... It would make a whole lot of sense if that's him coming in and punching Steppenwolf at a very significant time where we had just watched this sequence play out and the League failed, right? And now here's Superman returning. I believe that Zack would show that scene in his trailer. You know, like there's a reason that there's a shot of Superman coming in and punching Steppenwolf. And I think Zack would be one of the types of guys to be like, hey, this scene is really significant and I'm going to show it to you now, but I'm not going to tell you yet why it's really significant. I think that'd be really cool. Now, maybe I'm setting
that does sound really cool.
myself and you and all the rest of the people who are watching up for some type of failure, But that would be really cool if that happens.
That would be very cool. And Zack was very, very quiet in all, like we said before, in all the when he was doing the trailer breakdown. Whenever Flash came up in the Speed Force, he was like, "I'm just not gonna say anything."
And there's that other image that he released on 214 that showed the two Flashes sort of running through that scene where they're rescuing the people from Star Labs. And we sort of speculated at that time that that's Flash sort of going back through the events of the movie or the miniseries. And so I'm starting to lean toward some form of that speculation story playing out. Whether it's the way we just described it or whether it's slightly different, I think we're going to see something like that.
That sounds cool.
Oh, so cool.
So basically what we just summed up is that in Zack Snyder's Justice League, Steppenwolf will not go out as a coward.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump into Steppenwolf's new look, because we know in Zack Snyder's Justice League, he's gonna actually look threatening. So we saw the original design for Steppenwolf in BVS, and then obviously we saw it completely changed in Justice League. But thanks to Zack's trailers and some posts on Vero, we know that the original design has been restored.
Yeah.
So what do you think of that design, Sean?
Well, I just think, I don't think it's that different. Like, I think the bones of it are still going to be there. It's just the difference between the film version of something and then a cosplayer, right? Like, the Justice League version looks like somebody slapped the outfit together with things that they had at home, where they took, like, toilet paper rolls and coated them in aluminum foil and stuck it together.
Okay, some cosplayers are really, really legit.
Some
but
are
yes,
fantastic.
The amateur ones for sure.
Yes, the ones that really
at.
stand out, you look at them and you say, "Oh, you're amazing. That looks fantastic."
Yes.
But
that was not a
other ones not so much. Yeah. So when we saw Zack's design of Steppenwolf, we get a shot of him landing, and we see the spikes on the armor, and again, it does look like that deleted scene that he put out after BVS. Again, I don't think it's going to be that different, and there are going to be moments where he said, like, the face shield will sort of go back, and you will see a facial version. It's just going to look better. Like, Zack is just better at creating CGI versions of characters. You can go back to Doomsday and how realistic he looks. Now, it looks different from the comic until he starts to eventually break out the bone spikes. But it's complete. It's terrifying. It works on screen in the world, and it's not a complete distracting eyesore. Unfortunately, like so much of the stuff was in Justice League.
One thing I'm excited. Or sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, it got taken out of the oven too soon. Like, there's no other way to look at it. It's just like they needed to hit that release date, and it wasn't going to be ready in time, and they served up a half-cooked meal.
Yep, absolutely. One thing I'm excited to see about Zack Steppenwolf is he was talking about how the spikes are kind of like an armor that moves with Steppenwolf's like emotional situation.
Yeah.
Which I was like, that's gonna look awesome.
Well, think about too how some of the Kryptonian armor has like a liquid flow to it in both Man of Steel and BVS. It's heavily in Man of Steel, and I think that technology will be used on Steppenwolf's armor, and that makes
it's gonna look awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna look great. It's gonna look so great.
And I think too, one important thing that I want to point out and just clarify is that even before Zack left Justice League in 2017, the studio was not on board with the original design. So no matter what, even if Zack had stayed on the project and Joss hadn't come in, odds are Steppenwolf would not have looked like what he looked like in BVS. So I think it's exciting that HBO Max is just kind of letting Zack go back to his original design.
It's pretty interesting.
And I don't care if it's too scary.
It's interesting in this sense that, like, Steppenwolf prior to all of this is not a household name villain. It's not like you're changing Lex Luthor, or Joker and making them look drastically different. You have some flexibility to play around with Steppenwolf if you want to. And
I had no idea what Steppenwolf looked like.
Right.
I'm not a comic book person, like I've said.
Did you ever imagine you'd spend 30 minutes discussing the character of Steppenwolf? And I'm even going to go so far as to say that if Joss and his team had the time, maybe they would have landed on something that looked a little bit more credible. It just doesn't. It's like maybe they would have perfected Henry's face in the opening scene. They just didn't. They didn't have time, or they didn't care. That's the other alternative. The other alternative is that they just didn't care and they slapped it together. Both are terrible.
Praise to the mother of horrors.
Do we know if the voice will change? I'm assuming it will.
Yeah, I don't think that anything from theatrical is going to carry over. And I'm pretty sure, because Ciarán Hinds talked about the fact that when he saw a theatrical cut, he said, that's not what we shot, you know. And then he has also talked on record as saying, like, hey, I went back in for the reshoots, but all I did was voiceover and I did what they told me to do, kind of thing. But I'm fairly certain he's recorded all of the stuff the way that Zack wants him to record. When the movement did the Times Square billboard, Ciarán Hinds was one of the guys whose quote was featured as saying, like, give Zack his cut. So I'm sure he's confident that his Steppenwolf is going to be far more effective when the cut comes out.
Yeah, justice for Steppenwolf.
Another hashtag. Let's get it going.
So sorry. Okay, so moving on, we also know that in Zack Snyder's Justice League, Steppenwolf is actually going to get a backstory and some legitimate motivation. So before we kind of get into that though, I want to talk a little bit about the history lesson, because in theatrical cut, what we saw was Steppenwolf throughout that entire sequence. But in Zack Snyder's Justice League, we know that it's actually going to be Darkseid, not Steppenwolf. So we can kind of almost erase a lot of what we thought we knew about Steppenwolf's history from theatrical cut. Is that correct?
Yes, but I'm under the impression that Steppenwolf will still be part of that history lesson because his history with Darkseid are connected. I mean, they're family. And so if Darkseid is the predominant factor that's coming to this planet to retrieve the mother boxes, I'd gotta believe that in the battle that's ensuing, Steppenwolf is part of it. It's just that for whatever reason, they removed Darkseid completely from the history lesson that we got in Justice League, and they replaced him completely with Steppenwolf. But I'm holding out hope that Steppenwolf will be in the mix of the battle and sort of, again, flexing how strong he is at that point and showing what a threat he can be.
Something that I thought was interesting when I was researching Steppenwolf, because again, I knew nothing, was just that like coming to Earth and like conquering Earth is nothing to him, essentially. He's done this so many times that it's just kind of like a little like, I guess here we go again kind of thing. But in theatrical cut, that was not apparent.
And the line that he has that's held over is that he's almost realizing that this is the time to attack because there's no Kryptonian, there's no lanterns. He's essentially saying they have no protector, and this is the perfect time to strike. So when he arrives, he's not expecting to meet any type of resistance. And the resistance that he does meet up against is going to be...
It's like nothing compared to...
Exactly. Inconsequential. And so...
well,
I think
nothing, so we think.
Yeah. And I think that shows why... That'll feed into the conversations that we know are going to be pretty pivotal, which is Batman trying to convince the League that the only way to succeed is to bring Superman back.
Wow, that makes so much sense.
Could you imagine if they just let Zack do what he was supposed to do from the get-go?
So Ciarán Hinds said about Steppenwolf, he's old, tired, still trying to get out of his own enslavement to Darkseid, but he has to keep on this line to try and take over worlds. So I thought that element was really interesting because it's almost kind of like a reluctant villain in a way.
It is, and we're going to get another villain mixed in there too, which is Desaad, who's been included in some of the Zack Snyder footage that is shown. So you're going to see some of this push and pull between Darkseid and his forces and the need to almost please Darkseid and get on his good side, and I think that will be instrumental to making Steppenwolf, to give Steppenwolf some extra motivation. But yeah, I kind of do want to see more of the exhausted, battle weary, I don't really want to be here, but and I'm fed up with you guys type of thing, and almost have it be like him being stunned at how much resistance he's finally going to get from the League. Bringing the League together needs to be for something really important, and Steppenwolf should be that reason. Now, I think we're also not going to get the purple ooze that comes with
one
what?
Can only hope.
Yeah, well, like, what causes the purple ooze? I have no clue.
I don't really get that either, but I was just like, all right, I guess.
The upside of the purple ooze is that it turns into really nice flowers at the end, though.
Like, but I want to know, like, what was that? Because clearly that was something where it's like they just had to fill that in. Like you were saying earlier about like an explosion. I wonder if that was all like fire and like quote unquote scary dark stuff. Like,
it probably was destruction, yes. Yeah. And I'm sure that they looked at it and they were just like, we can't have this.
We gotta plant
flowers. Oh God, what's wrong with you people?
Oh my God. But so something about Steppenwolf that I'm curious. So it sounds like Zack Snyder's going to make him a lot more of a three-dimensional character, like he's going to do with the entire League. Is there any sort of element of like empathy that you think the audience is going to feel for Steppenwolf at any point?
It depends on how much we get to develop Darkseid in this. If Darkseid comes across as this really malevolent ruler, and if Steppenwolf is positioned as being somewhat under his thumb, it's possible. That is a pretty complicated, that's a gray area that you could see Zack having some fun exploring.
I was gonna say, it sounds like there's a lot there.
Yeah, and we're going from 2 hours to 4 hours, so that's absolutely a place where his backstory could be explored. It's always more interesting to make your villain a little bit empathetic, so they're not just a clear-cut force of evil sort of thing. So yeah, I guess the possibility is absolutely there.
You will love me.
So those are all the ways that we expect Steppenwolf to be different when we see him on screen in Zack Snyder's Justice League on HBO Max. This also concludes our character breakdown series. We went through the League. We attacked the main villain that is going to be the driving force of Justice League. And so we're definitely going to continue our Snyder Cut series. And so if you guys have topics that you want us to get into, make sure you hit us up in the comments down below. We're still going to come back and do this every single week because we love talking about Justice League. But that so far is the character breakdowns. And so as we continue to wait to find out when the Snyder Cut is going to be on HBO Max, make sure that you keep it here on CinemaBlend, and we will continue to bring the latest information right to you guys.